have to bring up the latest Star Wars film, The Last Jedi, because now these sort of event films are becoming the cultural events. At least that's what Disney, I guess, would want us to want to believe. But I just wanted to reflect on the fact that I got the chance to see it just over the weekend, and I mean, it's a really odd thing. We were talking about it before we started, that I just find the film actually a really good film because I like Rian Johnson, the director who directed Looper, so I'd highly recommend people watch that film because it's actually a really good film. He brought that kind of sensibility and unpredictability to The Last Jedi, which in the end, the film has caused quite a divisive fan reaction, and I can see why, because from my perspective, I'm not like a sort of wedded to Star Wars, so I don't like get upset if they do something a bit off or isn't quite in keeping with what's going on. But The Last Jedi to me felt like it was a really good film on its own, but then when you attach the Star Wars brand name to it, I think it actually doesn't work as a Star Wars film. So, and there's quite a number of instances for that. You can probably, look up on Reddit, the fanboys going into meltdown over what they did with Luke's storyline, the fact that they're still doing a bit of copying and pasting from earlier films, and that some of the ideas and themes were actually very interesting, but they just undercut what Star Wars is about, I thought, which... Yeah. Who knows? Maybe that's what it needed. 10 films in, whatever they're in. But maybe that's just what it is. They have to change it to keep it relevant. I don't really know.
Well, firstly, I haven't seen a Star Wars film since Return of the Jedi in the cinema, and I was regretting that decision probably about 5 or 6 years ago. But now I'm starting to feel pretty good about it. The more they make, obviously, the less special each Star Wars film becomes. So it's a tricky one, but maybe I'll answer it from a Doctor Who style perspective. There's the classic series and the modern. The modern continues in the traditions of the classic, but isn't the classic.
Yeah.
And will never be. And I think Star Wars is probably at the same point. It's very hard, I think, for people who've followed it the whole way, maybe to live with what's happening now, but I think you have to realise that the Star Wars now is not the classic Star Wars, it's modern Star Wars, whatever that means, for better or for worse.
So, to me, that kind of underlines the fact that you had the Lucas films, which were special, and I'd even include the prequels in that, because even though they're poorly sort of told in a way, they're still Lucas's films, so they kind of had... For all the issues with the prequels, they were trying to tell a different story at least.
That's right.
Whereas with these, they just feel like other films with the name Star Wars on it. And that's to be expected. Disney's a big corporation. They've turned it into corporate product. And that's what it is now. It's just another, an ongoing thing that we're just going to get these every year.
So how many Star Wars films are there now?
I believe there are 9.
So there's 9 now. Is that including the Ewok one?
Well, I guess if it's... Well, I don't know if they're really counting that one as part of it.
They never called it Star Wars, but I'm not suggesting that's where Star Wars is headed. So 9, yeah. So that's a lot of films.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I just wanted to end off with the quote from Mark Hamill that he recently was quoted as saying that it doesn't matter whether it's any good, it just matters whether it makes a lot of money, and it doesn't seem like that's going to slow down anytime soon.
No, that's
and I guess just to cap it all off, for me, the Last Jedi kind of embodies what has changed about Hollywood and why I've lost interest in it in general, because now you don't... Like, The Last Jedi would have worked as its own self-contained film.
Yes.
But they would never make a film on that scale which didn't have a brand name attached to it. And I find that quite sad in a way, that you can't go into an experience now that hasn't been predefined already, which is something I think we grew up on.
Yeah, that's right. The only other thing that I'd add that's interesting about the Sign of the Times is the fact that they don't market Star Wars films anymore. And so someone who's outside the Star Wars circle, it's very refreshing not to hear about it every year. And until fans say, I'm going to see the film, and they pull out a title and you go, well, I wonder what that's about.